Okay, let's unpack this. Have you ever woken up from a dream with just this really heavy, undeniable feeling?
Hmm.
Like, it wasn't just random brain noise, but it felt like it held something. A message, maybe, or even, I don't know, a glimpse of something coming.
Oh, yeah. That sense that a dream feels predictive.
Yeah.
It's a powerful feeling, something lots of people report experiencing.
And then maybe days or even weeks later, something clicks. Something happens, and it feels, well, eerily like that dream.
Exactly. And the big question, the challenge really, is figuring out if that's just, coincidence or maybe our memory playing tricks,
Oh, yeah.
or if there's maybe something else going on, a deeper mechanism.
Right. And that deeper mechanism, and that's the absolutely wild core idea we're diving into today. Could these dreams, these really potent ones that feel prophetic, could they actually be real messages? But like not just from your subconscious sorting things out, but maybe arriving from the future.
I know. It sounds straight out of science fiction. Totally understand that.
Yeah.
But the sources we're looking at for this deep dive, they explore some really fascinating connections. Highly speculative, mind you.
Okay.
But connections between, well, theoretical physics on one side and the nature of consciousness, specifically dreaming, on the other.
So we're talking things like particles that might go faster than light, that kind of physics.
Exactly. Concepts that really bend our usual understanding of, well, everything. Time, space.
And how that, theoretically at least, could somehow connect with our brains when we're asleep and dreaming.
That's the provocative idea, yeah.
Yeah.
That maybe, just maybe, under very specific conditions, your dreaming mind could act like a kind of interface.
An interface for what?
For receiving information, not just from your past or present,
Yeah.
but potentially from a future state.
Wow. Okay. So our mission then for this deep dive is to really grapple with this extraordinary idea. Could those significant dreams be, well, what some researchers are calling Tachyon dreams?
And to even start understanding that, we have to tackle the name itself, tachyons.
Sounds very theoretical.
Oh, it absolutely is. Firmly in the realm of theoretical physics for now.
Yep.
The name actually comes from Greek, tachy, meaning swift or rapid.
Okay.
So tachyons are these hypothetical particles. And it's a big, if they exist, they'd have this bizarre property.
Yeah.
They always travel faster than the speed of light.
Always faster. But wait, doesn't Einstein's whole thing say that's impossible? For anything with mass, anyway.
You're absolutely right. For anything with what we call real mass, like us, like photons, particles of light breaking the light barrier is a no-go according to special relativity. That's fundamental.
So how do tachyons get around that?
Well, in the equations where they pop up, theoretically, they wouldn't have real mass. They'd have imaginary mass.
Imaginary mass. Okay, that's weird.
It is weird. And because of that, they wouldn't need to break the light barrier. They'd just always be on the other side of it, always faster than light. And the really strange part, for some observers, moving faster than light like that would look like they're moving backward in time.
Backwards in time.
This idea was explored properly back in the 60s by physicist Gerald Feinberg.
Okay, this is where my brain starts to ache a little. Backward in time, even just relatively speaking. What does that mean? Could information actually travel from the future to the past?
That is the absolute crux of it.
Yeah.
That's the critical implication, yes. But, and this is really, really important to stress, no tachyon has ever been found. Ever.
Oh, right. No experimental proof.
None whatsoever. They remain theoretical possibilities. You hear them discussed sometimes in, advanced physics circles, maybe related to quantum weirdness like non-locality or certain string theories. But they basically force physicists to really wrestle with causality, cause and effect.
So if they existed, would cause and effect just break?
Well, some theorists argue maybe not broken, but perhaps more complex than we think, or redefined somehow. It wouldn't necessarily violate physics, but it would certainly stretch our everyday understanding of it.
Okay. So we have this purely theoretical particle that might mess with time. How on earth do we connect that to dreaming, to something so internal, so subjective?
Right? That's the big leap, isn't it? Bridging the physics and the consciousness state. And the key is that the dreaming mind is just a fundamentally different state of brain function.
Different how?
Well, think about waking life. Our perception of time feels pretty straightforward, linear, structured, right?
Yeah, mostly.
But in dreams, it's not like that at all. Time gets warped, events jump around, logic kind of goes out the window.
It feels less constrained. Definitely.
Exactly. And physiologically, during REM sleep, that's where most vivid dreaming happens. The brain activity reflects this. Your prefrontal cortex, the bit responsible for logic, planning, linear thought. it dials down.
Ah.
But other areas,
Yeah.
linked to emotion, memory consolidation, visual stuff, they're highly active.
Yeah.
And the overall brain waves are different. Slower patterns like theta and delta waves, not the faster beta waves of being awake and alert.
Okay, I get that the brain state is different, but why would that specific state make it like receptive to tachyons or future info,
Right.
if such things even exist?
And that is the speculative jump the sources explore. The hypothesis, the core idea, is that precisely because the dreaming brain isn't using that rigid linear filter, because its sense of time is altered, maybe, just maybe, it becomes temporarily more sensitive
Sensitive to what?
to phenomena that are outside our usual perception of space-time. Think of it like a radio.
Okay.
Waking consciousness is like a radio tuned really clearly to one strong station, the linear present, right here, right now.
Makes sense.
But the dreaming mind might be like that same radio, only the tuning knob is looser. It's quieter, less locked onto that main station, and maybe, just maybe, it can pick up fainter signals on other frequencies, signals that are usually just lost in the noise when we're awake.
So the dream state isn't just recycling the day's events or worries. It might be lowering its defenses, so to speak, letting other kinds of information in.
Information that might be external in a weird way, or maybe non-local, information not tied down by the usual rules of space and time. And this idea gets a little bit more, well, conceptual traction if we bring in the block universe model.
Ah, okay, I've heard of this. From relativity, right? The idea that all time, past, present, future, it all exists simultaneously.
Exactly that. In the block universe picture, time isn't a river flowing just one way. The past, present, and future are all equally real, coexisting as part of a single four-dimensional structure, like a loaf of bread where every slice exists at once.
Right.
So in that model, the brain, especially in an altered state like dreaming where its usual grip on linear time is loosened, might theoretically be able to, I don't know, resonate with or access information
From where?
from its own future self within that already existing block. It wouldn't necessarily be information traveling through time like a message in a bottle.
More like accessing a different part of the map that's already there?
Kinda, yeah. Like having access to the whole book at once, maybe catching a glimpse of a later chapter instead of just reading page by page.
Okay.
And, there's even some theoretical physics research, serious stuff published in journals looking into retrocausality.
Effects happening before their causes.
Sort of, yeah. Exploring if, in some quantum situations, effects might precede causes. Not necessarily to break physics, but maybe to resolve certain paradoxes in really complex ways. If that kind of backward influence is possible, even theoretically.
Then information could flow backwards somehow.
Conceivably, along those paths. And theoretical things like tachyons become sort of natural candidates in those discussions because of that built-in, faster-than-light, time-bending property.
Okay, let me see if I've got this. We have purely theoretical particles, tachyons, linked maybe to backward time effects. We have the dreaming brain state, which is nonlinear, less filtered, maybe less tethered to now.
Right.
And the hypothesis connects these by suggesting the dream state might be able to perceive or receive information related to these time-bending ideas.
Right.
Possibly within a block universe framework where the future already exists in some sense.
That's the essence of it, yes.
Yeah.
The unique, less constrained state of the dreaming mind becomes the hypothesized receiver for these potential signals or information packets from the future.
But what would that information even look like? I mean, you wouldn't suddenly dream tomorrow's newspaper headlines, right? Or the winning lottery numbers.
Yeah, probably not. Highly, highly unlikely. The sources we looked at are pretty clear on this. If, again, if this kind of information transfer happens,
Yeah.
it wouldn't arrive as like a clear, literal message. Forget winning lottery numbers. It's described more like arriving as, well, compressed symbolic packets.
Symbolic packets, meaning
Right.
metaphors, feelings.
Exactly. Powerful metaphors, strong gut feelings or emotions, vivid but maybe nonsensical dream stories.
Mm-hmm.
Or even just that intense feeling of déjà vu when you later encounter a situation that resonates with the dream's feeling.
Okay, that actually makes more intuitive sense. So, the classic anxiety dream about all your teeth falling out.
Right.
According to this idea, it wouldn't literally mean you need to see a dentist tomorrow morning.
Precisely. It could be interpreted symbolically as maybe a presentiment, a warning about an upcoming situation where you're going to feel a profound loss of control or power or maybe vulnerability. The dream isn't showing the event. It's conveying the feeling, the essence of a future experience using symbols.
Or like dreaming you're struggling through really thick mud, like you just can't move.
Yeah, that could absolutely symbolize maybe an upcoming period where things feel incredibly difficult, where you feel stuck, progress is slow and frustrating. The dream gives a kind of symbolic heads up.
And you'd have to interpret it based on your own life, what's going on for you.
Exactly. It requires interpretation within the dreamer's own context.
This is, wow, incredibly thought-provoking. But we absolutely have to keep hammering this point. Tachyons are theoretical, still just an idea.
Absolutely critical. Cannot stress that enough. This entire framework rests on a theoretical physics foundation that is, frankly, nowhere near experimental confirmation. Tachyons are mathematical possibilities in certain equations. They've not been detected. We have to be grounded here. This is highly speculative physics, meeting highly speculative ideas about consciousness.
But that research into the weird edges of physics, into consciousness itself, that is happening, right? People are pushing these boundaries.
Oh, definitely. Major labs, researchers all over the world, places like CERN, LIGO detecting gravitational waves, quantum physics labs, they are constantly pushing our understanding of space-time, particles, the fundamental rules.
Okay.
Now, they aren't explicitly looking for dream signals from the future, obviously.
No.
But they work on things like quantum entanglement, non-locality, the nature of time itself. It's constantly refining the map. And the possibility of discovering things beyond our current standard model of physics. It's not zero. Theoretical physics keeps that door open.
Okay, so let's just assume for a minute. Let's play the game. If these Tachyon dreams could happen, wow, the questions that raises.
Huge question.
Like, who or what is sending the message? Is it you? Your future self somehow? Are they warnings? Guidance? Just random noise leaking through from the future.
And maybe the biggest one, what do you do with that information, assuming you could even decode it? Which leads straight into that classic time travel paradox.
The self-negating prophecy thing.
Exactly that one. If you dream about something bad happening, say a specific accident, and because you had the dream, you change your plans, you avoid that place, and the accident doesn't happen to you.
Yeah.
Well, did that future you dreamed of ever really exist to begin with if your actions erased it? It throws you right into the deep end of philosophy, determinism, free will, fate.
But hang on, what if it's not about preventing a fixed future event? What if it's more subtle, like nudging you?
Nudging you how?
Like maybe nudging you towards a certain possibility or away from another one, aligning you with a path.
That's definitely one perspective that comes up in some of the sources discussing these ideas. Maybe they aren't rigid predictions of the one inevitable future.
Or it's more like?
More like information packets from a possible future. Signals that, if you receive them and maybe subconsciously or consciously act on them, help guide you towards that specific outcome. An outcome that perhaps already existed as a potential in that block universe.
So it's less about fighting fate and more about maybe choosing a path or being guided towards one?
Potentially. Aligning with the particular strand of possibility that's already there in some sense.
You know, it does make me think about how some older cultures or indigenous traditions have viewed dreams.
How so?
Well, not just as brain babble, right?
Yeah.
But as real sources of knowledge, guidance, maybe even communication from spirits, ancestors, other times. Some shamanic practices talk about journeying across time or dimensions in altered states, like dreaming, to get information.
That's a really interesting point. There's certainly a conceptual resonance there, isn't there?
Yeah.
It suggests that maybe modern science, poking around at the edges of physics and consciousness, is starting to find, theoretical language to potentially describe phenomena that other ways of knowing have understood through metaphor and experience for a very long time.
So, okay, let's try and bring this back to you listening right now. We have covered a lot of ground today, some pretty mind-bending stuff.
Definitely.
We've explored this highly speculative idea of tachyons, hypothetical, faster-than-light particles. We touched on the block universe concept, where past, present, future might coexist.
Okay.
And the really wild possibility that your dreaming mind, in its unique state, might act as a receiver, picking up symbolic information from your own future within that block.
And we talked about how if this happens, it's likely not literal predictions, but those compressed symbolic packets, metaphors, feelings needing interpretation.
Right. And we have to remember the core physics here is still theory, very much theory.
Absolutely. Unconfirmed experimentally.
But the questions it raises about time, causality, consciousness, these are being actively explored by science. We thought about the paradoxes too, like the self-negating prophecy.
And that alternative view, maybe it's not about changing fate, but aligning with possibilities.
So here's something maybe for you to mull over. Think about your own dreams, especially the ones that stick with you, the vivid ones, the symbolic ones, the ones that leave a strong feeling long after you wake up.
Do they ever feel like they're more than just random mental noise?
What if, and just entertain the thought, what if those really strange, significant dreams aren't just your brain tidying up? What if they are something like these compressed symbolic packets, these theoretical whispers from the future that the sources talk about?
Whispers arriving maybe just when you need them, not to dictate what you must do.
But maybe to offer a subtle hint, a symbolic heads up from a future moment, a future version of you, perhaps.
What might happen if you simply started paying a bit closer attention to them?